What we're going to do now is we're going to make a stand collar. So this will be so just literally a stand collar because it's a complete neck. Keep in mind too that if you want to make the neckline bigger, if you want it to be roomier around the neck, you need to do that, like as your pattern making this, and certainly before you, add these gathers in there as well. Otherwise it's going to be a bit tricky afterwards. So we just need to get some measurements for our collar. So we've got this is our block here. So if we go back to the block, because we haven't changed the neckline, so we can use the block. So we've got 3.7 and 2 centimeters. So that's for our front neck. Front neck is 5.7.
And this is half scale.
Half scale, yeah. So, and then our back neck here, so this is our back shoulder, our centre back here, so that's 3.7 for the back neck. And this is the pattern, so remember we did this here, and these go here and here, the pieces, and we added in all that fullness. So this is where the shoulder is. So I'm actually going to use that. I'm going to have a notch for my shoulder at the original shoulder point, just because it's better than having to you don't want to have to divide the collar up and have like three notches on each side of the collar, one for where each seam intersects. We're only going to have the one on the actual shoulder. So this is a bit strange too. It's not like, it's sort of the opposite, because we're going to have like the collar with the join at the centre back. So the join's going to be here, which means that we won't have a front opening. It's just the band that comes around. So we're going to start at the centre back like we do for a normal collar. So we just need to draw a line, and then we need to come up from there at a right angle. And this is going to be your centre back. And we'll add a seam allowance to that later as well, because we're going to have a centre back join where the zip goes into it, rather than a centre front opening like on a shirt. So from the centre back we need to come forward to the shoulder. So that our back neck measurement is 7.4 from the centre back to the shoulder. So this is our shoulder point here. And then we want to come 11.4 forward from that, from our shoulder to our centre front. Okay, so that's our centre front there. Okay, now from that centre front point, we're going to go up 1.5 centimetres. And then from that point there, we're just going to take a line from there, and it needs to flatten out by the time it hits the shoulder. Okay? And then our centre front here, our centre front point, we don't need to add an extension because our centre front's on the fold. So we go a right angle up from this point here, right angle, so put your line on your ruler on that line, and then draw up on this edge. And now we just want to make it, I'm going to do 3 centimetres wide. And so I put my black line on top of the pencil line underneath, so we get a 3 centimetres all the way along. Okay, so once we've got that piece, we need to cut it out. Okay, so centre front, so right centre front on here, and this will be on the fold, just so that you know, and our centre back there, which we need to add a seam allowance to. Hoping this is going to fit on here, and it will, yes. So then we need to trace around this piece. Make sure that you mark your shoulder point in. Okay, so this is our pattern here. So again, you can write on here center front, and that will be the grain line as well. And then we're going to add a 6mm seam allowance along the top, and I'm actually going to have a 1cm seam allowance down the center back, because we've got a 1cm seam allowance at the center back, which flows into the 1cm seam allowance that you have down the back of the garment here. So 1cm seam allowance, very invisible zip, 1cm seam allowance for the collar. And if you were having a collar on here too, then that zip would actually go all the way up to the top of the collar. So you have to keep that in mind when you're planning how long your zip is going to be. And actually, before, I was going to fold it and then cut it, but I think I'm actually going to
It makes it easy to
cut it
trace.
first. Yeah, so we're not folding it and then cutting through 2 layers of paper, because it never works and it'll go all wonky and it'll make a mess, and you'll have to start again anyway.
You
So-
end up getting little peaks, little V's and
Exactly.
peaks.
Okay, so we cut. Make sure you fold it exactly on the line.
You can see them before you cut this second side too. You can see if it's got a good flow through in the middle then.
And you can even check it as well if you want to. Like once you open it up again, if you put the
You put your ruler on it.
put
make
the
sure
ruler
it's
on there and
straight,
just make
yeah.
sure that it's straight, and that's like the tiniest little bit
Yeah.
off there. Okay, and then okay, so here's our collar. So we've got a center front here. It goes around the neck, our shoulder point, and then connects at the center back. Okay, so this is going to be, actually we'll just make sure. To have our shoulder notch on the other side. And then for this collar, it'll be collar, cut 2 and cut 1 in fusing, and that fusing will go on the outer collar, the outside layer. If you wanted it slightly more stiffer, you could cut 2 for fusing, but generally 1's enough, and that's a size 10, same as our block there.
And a notch on centre front.
Oh yes,
helps,
oh yeah, good idea, Libby, and on the
Yeah,
other
and
side
top,
too.
yeah.
Just help you match things up as you go along. Right, there's your collar.